Won't you give a big hand for errors, applause for mistakes? Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it for inexactitude, for imprecision, bravo, for fudging it, hip hip, 3 cheers. DNA of twisted double helix fame is an expert at that self-replication game. But once in a million times it goes wrong, and thanks to that we're singing the song. Won't you give a big hand for errors, applause for mistakes? Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it for inexactitude, for imprecision, bravo, for fudging it, hip hip, 3 cheers. If that new mutation hits an egg or seed, which managed to combine together and then lead to one new fungus, plant or beast, that baby will be a little different at least. That mutation will probably reduce our new pal's ability to reproduce. But every now and then a mutation arrives, gives you a better chance of making more lives. A big hand for errors, applause for mistakes. Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it for inexactitude, for imprecision, bravo.
Jill Will.
Peace Worker Radio, WCCR, Voice and Vision of Cambridge. We have a guest, Paul Stevenson, today, speaking about the Green Party. Thanks to those stations joining us.
Oh, how nice, we're being joined. So as I was saying, that there was a little frustration working with the Green Party, but the biggest frustration was working without any money. It was making bricks without straw, as the Israelites were supposedly asked to do back in Egypt. Jill was very approachable, accessible. I was the director of advertising. So without having any funds, you relied solely on volunteers, and I never had the ability to really get the message out there. And even at the very end, we tried a last-ditch effort to do a variety of signs that said Jill Will and then put in the third.
They're still using that, Jill Will.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well, you know, it must have been your advertising. We can get a look at it right now. I just called it up on
Oh,
online.
good. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a very easy, basically the way I work generally, I notice, I don't do it purposely, is that very often my themes or concepts relate to the product that's being sold.
Makes sense.
Hoover W.B. Mason. It's certainly more memorable that way. Jill Will. My contribution to Jill Stein this year, I sent her emails at her old address, and I have no idea if she's still receiving mail there, but I suggested that she bill herself as the anti-Hillary and call herself the Jillery.
Wow.
Big idea. Big idea.
It is a big idea.
And I don't even know. So, Jill, if you're watching this out there, the anti-Hillary Jillery. So the thing it would do is it would have enough, I think, it would be sassy enough to get the interest of the media, and it would also allow people to quickly fix on who she is. She's the antithesis of Hillary, and I think it's appropriate to say the anti-Hillary. Just like the anti.
She's approachable, she's open, she's direct, she sticks to her guns, she's consistent.
And she's very clear on her feet. She knows what's important and what's relevant, and she quickly can you know, basically take the chaff out from the wheat, and you're listening to pretty clean thinking. She's very concerned about community health. That's a big issue for her.
She's a medical doctor, right?
Mm-hmm. And she's, I used, another frustration of mine, she very early on in the relationship, she pointed out to me that when I use a term like battling, if we were battling corruption, she doesn't like to use any warlike terms.
Any conflict suggesting
It's like battle,
adjectives?
war, combat.
Substantives.
Yeah, that it has a certain connection to war. She's just very opposed to that, which I can appreciate. And the only difference that she has in terms of the stated policies of the campaign versus Bernie's is that she would eliminate the drone program right off.
And Bernie doesn't mention that.
No, he would continue it, whether under the same set of rules, I don't know. And I don't think that she was going to be so stupid as to not find out what the impact of that is and what the meaning of those decisions are. But most likely she would still get rid of it. She's not somebody that could ever take comfort in having killed innocent civilians and children especially.
So she's highly ethical.
Highly ethical. She says what she means. She's very believable.
She is the Jillery.
She is the Jillery. You can take what she says to the bank. She's going to, if she gets elected, God willing, she's going to forgive all student debt to the government.
Wow.
And she says that she has the power to do it just like they basically had the power to bail out the banks. So I think that would be
That's
incredible.
terrific.
Yes, yes.
That is terrific.
Yeah.
Talk about a demarcation line. That would be just gigantic.
Yeah. And Hillary is so connected to financial interests that I'm sure she's never going to do anything like that, anything as dramatic. And Jill is, well, if you look at all the policies that we've been basically, fighting for the last 6 months, healthcare, free student tuition, expand Social Security, end these terrible trade deals. Jill is also anti-TPP, and that's here again. It's diametrically opposed to what Hillary is going to do. Forget about what she's saying. What she's going to do is she's going to immediately, if it hasn't passed yet, she will help it pass and sign it. And if it's passed, she's going to, power
Implement
it through. Yeah, power it through.
She's going to be the extension of Barack Obama, with all of the consequences.
Yeah. And I didn't quite realize how Barack had gone off course certainly in the last year or two.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's holding Hillary's TPP-related emails till after the election. He won't let the State Department release them because the Freedom of Information Act people are clamoring to see what she actually said about the
Right.
TPP.
And what's his move? He's protecting Hillary then with executive order?
Well, it's not him personally. It's the State Department says they can't get those done until long after they can't process them. Yeah, very bad. And then
This is third world mentality. What we basically are implementing here in the United States.
and
Political third world.
I was thinking about comparing us to a banana republic. And really, in a lot of ways, there's a big difference in that we think we're not corrupt. The banana republic, nobody's kidding anybody. But folks, our system is as corrupt as it comes. We just had Hillary Clinton installed as the nominee above and against the votes of millions of people whose votes were not counted, were shredded, were stolen, were flipped, were never recorded because they stood in 5-hour lines. They were never recorded because they couldn't find the polling station, which had been mysteriously closed on them. Just all manner of deceitful things that were done to win this nomination.
Right.
And we end up with a woman who doesn't deserve the nomination, running against somebody who's so scary that we might actually feel like we have to vote for her. Don't vote for Hillary. Let's build up the Green Party so that next time around, at least, they can challenge the status quo.
Excellent suggestion.
Yeah. You're not going to change the world overnight. We have to work at it. We have to invest, and we have to push that boulder up the hill. So, but Jill Stein's a good person. How she is, she's never held office, so I can't honestly say anything about that. But the truth of the matter is, Neither has Donald Trump.
Yes.
And Barack Obama
He's
had.
a lot scarier than Jill Stein.
Right. So if you're afraid of Donald Trump, vote for Jill Stein. If you're afraid of Hillary, vote for Jill Stein. And if you want to see this world be a better place for your children and grandchildren, vote for Jill Stein. Yeah, I said that a vote for Jill Stein might not mean it much, but put together with enough other votes for Jill Stein, it could really help the Green Party emerge as a real challenge to the status quo.
And I think it's necessary. I agree completely with you, Paul. I think it's necessary in this election not to let the two-party system oppress us into not voting our conscience. That's what their effort is, to try to frighten us in the threat of having some misogynistic bully take over as President of the United States. And instead, the only option we're giving other than that from the two parties is a woman who should have been indicted on two different cases. First of all, the email, and second of all, the stealing of the elections.
Right. That's a criminal act. That's why they'll never apologize for that.
So the Green Party system, the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein, has come up with a vice presidential candidate, and that's what we'd like to talk about. We've got Democracy Now!, who we've taken to present this issue today to you, the viewers here at What We Should Know, in reference to Ajamu Baraka, who is a extremely experienced civil rights and justice.
You know he's been doing his job too long when he can actually pronounce the name. Hey, so before we go on, can we just say a brief word about Democracy Now?
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
that's an honest presentation of the news. It's not filtered. There's no agenda. And it's important that you know that, because you're getting everything that you get has been filtered through a corporate agenda. And if it doesn't synchronize with the corporate agenda, it gets thrown out, such as Bernie's campaign and all the record-breaking rallies. You never saw photos of those rallies in the mainstream media. You did see them on Democracy Now! So Democracy Now!, Redacted Tonight, The Young Turks, and I saw a list of and Ring of Fire, which is a new network.
Great.
Yeah. So check out your news sources and take a look online for some better options. Democracy Now!
Thanks so much. The sources are great, and it's important to get unfiltered, as Paul says. It's very, very important to get unfiltered news, not corporate media determining what information that's put out by political parties or individuals interested in political change, not to be filtered through some corporate criteria. So without further ado, let's have Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman. I believe we lost the first couple of words of this piece. She'll be speaking about Ajamu Baraka, the vice president candidate of the Green Party, and he'll be introduced here. So thanks so much.
Convention in Houston, where Dr. Jill Stein accepted the party's presidential nomination. Her running mate is Ajamu Baraka, the founding executive director of the U.S. Human Rights Network. He spoke on Saturday in Houston.
Brothers and sisters, friends, we are at a critical moment, as Jill says, a transformational moment. We have tremendous opportunities before us. The American people are longing for a change. They are ready to do something different. And we have to be the vehicle for that difference. There are difficult conditions that the people face. They tell us that there has been a recovery and things are all right from the crisis. But you know what? There are millions of people who we work with, who haven't experienced any kind of recovery. There are millions of people who still don't have a place to lay their head at night. There's a reason why the fastest growing population of homeless people are black women with children. There are millions of people who would like to have a job where they can live a decent life, but they don't have it. And if they have a job, they are making starvation wages. They're working 2 and 3 different jobs just to make ends meet. But they tell us things are better. We have a situation where, as a consequence of austerity across this country, in communities where we live and work, they're closing down schools. People live in communities where they can't go to the store because there's no store. So you have like 48 million people who are living in situations where they are going to bed every night hungry. We have a situation where basically, even with so-called Obamacare, we have millions still without health care. These are difficult conditions. Difficult conditions. And people are wondering why. Why do we have to accept this kind of situation? And so when the two parties attempt to try to herd people based on fear, we find that today there are millions of people who are prepared to do something different, who are prepared to go another way. And we are going to be there to provide that opportunity for a new day and another way. My brothers and sisters, I've lived my entire life committed to the notion of independent politics, building alternative power. I understood that basically we had some real possibilities in advancing that struggle for political independence using the electoral process. And that's where Dr. Stein and the Green Party comes in for me personally. Because you all get it. Dr. Stein understands that you can't transform a system without struggle. That you have to organize the people. That the electoral process is in fact a process about how we build power. And for me, that is what is attractive to this process and was the basis for me accepting when Dr. Stein called and said, Ajamu, are you ready to join me? And I said, Dr. Stein, I thought about it. I know where you're coming from, and you can count me in. I'm with you. It is that commitment to building popular power. It is that commitment to the people. It is that understanding that we have to build a multinational movement here in this country based on the needs and the aspirations of working people that I joined this effort. It is that commitment that I stand here proudly and say to all of you, it is my honor to accept the nomination for the Vice Presidency of the United States from the Green Party.
That's Green Party Vice Presidential nominee Ajamu Baraka speaking in Houston Saturday at the Green Party convention. He's founding executive director of the U.S. Human Rights Network, coordinator of the U.S.-based Black Left Unity Network's Committee on International Affairs. He has served on the boards of Amnesty International USA and the Center for Constitutional Rights, as well as Africa Action. On Saturday, he also spoke about police brutality at a news conference during the convention.
Black males are always suspicious, even when we have the right uniform on. And as Dr. Stein said, this is something that we have to address here in this country, and we really intend to. You know, one of the things that really is outrageous to me is that one of the reasons why police forces appear to operate with impunity is that there doesn't appear to be a consequence for these kinds of actions. Not only do we have someone being detained for 35 minutes, which is an assault on your dignity, we have people who are being murdered now almost every week, it appears. But yet,
crazy.
we have an administration that is supposed to be responsible for protecting the rights of all citizens, and they have a civil rights division, and they have the power to intervene and to conduct investigations and to prosecute. And out of all of the examples we know of, all of these shootings of unarmed black men and women now, we have one indictment over all of these years. That's outrageous. While at the same time, what many people don't know is that in Baltimore and in Ferguson, the young, primarily black, poor folks who were involved in acts of resistance, they ended up feeling the full weight of the federal government. The federal government intervened into the state and brought indictments against a number of protesters in both Ferguson and in Baltimore. We have people in Baltimore right now who are now serving draconian time now, 8 years, 12 years, for things that in the past would have been maybe a misdemeanor or probation.
So that's Jamu Baraka.
Very interesting fellow. I have to look him up, do a little more research. I wanted to add one other outlet to the unfiltered news access, and that's the Real News. Do you watch that at all?
No,
RealNews.tv?
The Real News.
The Real News. It's only donations. It exists by virtue of donations, and the quality of what they present. They just find the right people to ask the questions.
That's terrific.
Yeah, for whatever reason, a number of outlets, even the ones that don't filter the news, chose not to get involved with the election fraud issue. And I think that's kind of like chasing after a ghost, a wraith. It's very hard to nail down. So they found that they were. I don't think they had the production or investigative capabilities to do anything about it. But they've been pretty honest about Bernie, and they've covered Bernie. And I just saw an interview with Jill Stein on the Real News. So the Real News is worth your time as well, and worth a donation.
So, Paul, with your experience, Jamu Baraka appears in the pieces we just saw from Democracy Now! As being straightforward, direct, in contact with alternative thinking, and optimistic. What do you think about his estimation that a lot of Americans would be willing to try something new as far as the electoral politics are concerned?
Oh, I think he's absolutely right. I think this is the moment for the Green Party or for a third party to get out and present itself, because everybody, the value of what Bernie did and the stupidity of what the DNC did brought together, it really highlighted how corrupt and how entrenched the Democratic Party is. Just another entrenched interest. And I think enough of us saw it. I wrote a piece about the brand suicide of the Democratic brand, and I hope it is brand suicide. It certainly has sullied and soiled their brand. But I think enough of us feel abandoned by the DNC.
Agreed.
And why the hell would we ever vote for anybody that they sponsor or give them any money at all? Because what they do with the money is malfeasance. They funnel it to Hillary. And in fact, that whole thing where she was funneling her backers' money to individual candidates, local candidates, and 99% of it was funneled back. She's such a pig. She didn't even leave anything on the table. These people, she left them a processing fee, 1%. She is a pig. I'm sorry. She and Bill are at the trough.
They have a long game. The Clintons have, seriously, I have to agree with Paul 100%, and history will as well. The Clintons have a long history of being really pretty nasty politicians. Self-aggrandizing,
enriching, justifying, and sadly self-assured.
It's true.
So Jill
the point
Stein, think about Jill Stein. She's worth checking out. She's worth your vote, I believe.
Agreed. So you've written a new ad,
No, I wrote a new blog piece.
new blog.
Yeah, that was, I write, if you can go to paulstonesthrow.com, you'll be able to find my my blogs. And the latest one was, sorry, Hillary, we can never forget or forgive your stealing the nomination. And it's just basically expounding on that particular emotional idea. There's something in me that wants to just point out how stupid what they did was. How you, a political party, to actually suppress 13 million votes of its own people voting in its own election, is just amazing. It's stupid. It's like the Raleigh bike people going out and shooting people who are riding Raleigh bikes. It doesn't make any sense. Except that it makes sense in that the Clintons are toxic and they contaminate anybody that gets involved with them. Corruption, the thing about corruption is it spreads. Put a bad apple in a barrel with other apples and you will have a barrel full of rotten apples before too long. That's the Clintons. That's the Clintons up and down. People are talking about all these people who are suddenly dying, who are theoretically Clinton researchers or Clinton toadies. I don't know. Is she capable? Is she and Bill capable of murder? I don't know. She certainly is capable of having millions of people die in wars, but I don't know. But it's a testament to her character that I'm uncertain rather than I'm saying no. I don't. If you believe she had any character at all, you'd say, no, she couldn't do that, or that's so far-fetched. But the two of them together have been so out there.
She's unscrupulous, politically completely unscrupulous.
Yeah.
So I've got this picture. Let me see if I can get it on the screen.
Oh, this is an older one.
Don't blame me if I criticize Hillary.
Yeah, that's an older one. I've got two newer ones. If you go to the bottom of that.
Where it says share? Or?
No. I see. You're on your own Facebook page.
Oh, there we go.
Right, so now if you go to the bottom of this, you'll see that on the left is two others. One is Leave It to Hillary, which is kind of cute. Go down, you were there.
Uh-huh.
Yes, no, back up. Okay, keep going. All right, stop. See the upper right, Leave It to Hillary, and on the left, is that your idea of an apology?
Leave it to Hillary, man.
Sure, let's take a look at that. So let's see if I can read this one. So this is basically an episode of The Beaver, Leave It to Beaver. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure, Beaver. What would you like to know? Something I don't understand. Ask away. That's what I'm here for. You told me it was wrong to cheat and that cheaters always get caught. Well, I'm not sure they always get caught, Beaver, but it definitely is wrong to cheat. This morning, Wally said that gang on TV, the one holding their national invention, I think you mean convention, Beaver, the Democratic National Convention. Yeah, well, Wally said they got caught cheating, is that right? Yes, Beaver, the Democrats were caught cheating. Wally said they were liars and cheaters. Well, they are, son, and they got caught doing both. Why did they lie and cheat, Dad? Well, you're a little young to understand this, Beaver. It's kind of an adult thing. The Democrats wanted their candidate to beat out some other candidate, and they cheated to win? Yes, they did. They did all sorts of nasty things to the other candidate, so their candidate would win. They made it so hard for anyone but their candidate to win that naturally their candidate ended up winning. But then they got caught, right? Isn't that like when Wally and I were trying to win that $1 from Mom for whoever made his bed best for a week, and Wally kept messing up my bed so I wouldn't win? Yes, it's very much like that, Beaver. Scroll. And when Wally got caught, Mom took back the $1 and gave it to me, didn't she? She sure did, Beaver. By cheating, Wally gave up his right to keep the $1. What did you call it when Wally gave back the $1? I said he was disqualified. Yeah, that's right. And weren't those Russian athletes disqualified? Yes. They were kicked out of the Olympics for cheating. So why does the fake winner of the Democratic Convention get to keep her winnings? Because her name is Hillary Clinton.
It's terrific. Absolutely terrific.
How'd you like my beaver voice?
I love the beaver voice. That's right on target. That's my generation. I used to watch that with my family, my sister and brother and parents every week.
I did a WB Mason TV commercial, and it was in Masonville, a fictitious place in my mind. And the fellow that I used, the businessman that I used, had a little name thing that said Ward Cleaver on it.
Wow.
One of those little inside jokes that you find in my commercials, which I always enjoy doing. Pepper the commercial with a little.
Yeah, the dialogue is great. You have obviously experience in writing dialogue. The dialogue is right on
Or
target.
watching Leave It to Beaver. Boy, you know, I tell you.
That's not a real. That wasn't a real dialogue from a Leave It to Beaver episode, right?
No.
That's your dialogue.
But that was a dialogue from dozens of Leave It to Beaver episodes, as written in my brain. No, in fact, I started out not writing it with the beaver in mind. I started out with a character named Bob, and then from Bob I went to Barry, and then from that I realized something in me was trying to give me a little message here.
Right. How close can you get to Beaver? And I'll start with B.
Right.
Terrific.
And then I jumped to Beaver, and then it hit its niche. It was in a groove.
Wow.
I had the personalities of the people in mind. It was.
So that's your creative pattern. That's you discovered you work like that, do you? So
Sure.
you get a general idea and hone in on it like that.
Well, I've always described myself as somebody that enters the kitchen like a waiter, bangs his ass against the door and goes in, and then turns around and there's the kitchen. And so with a piece like that, and with all my pieces really, I have an idea of my outrage, the point I want to make. If it's 1 or 2 points, main points. This last one I did on Hillary, which was Sorry Hillary, we'll never forgive or forget you're stealing the nomination. I just wanted to deal with the fact that we've been so badly abused that you can forget about asking for our vote. Forget about trying to shame us and guilt us into voting for that lying, thieving. I call her a ganef in one piece. Ganef is a thief because obviously she stole the election. I call it the presidential race for the presidency. The Gonzo versus the ganef. Gonzo being the orange-haired orangutan, and the ganef being Hillary. So, anyhow, Paul Stone's Throw. You can find it all there, waiting for you. And I wanted to give a plug for something else I'm doing. Is that okay?
Sure.
Every year, September 21st is the United Nations Day of Peace, International Day of Peace. And I've gotten involved with a group that for the entire day, anywhere on the planet that September 21st falls, we're going to be running a non-stop webinar featuring videos related to peace. And if you go on there now, just go to peacecast.tv. Peacecast.tv. And we're no longer just on Peace Day. We're also trying to function as an online resource for videos about peace. We're trying to spread the word that peace is a lot more than just the absence of war. Peace is a state of mind. Peace is fatherhood. Peace is motherhood. Peace is brotherhood. Peace is dance. Peace is art. Peace is music. And it all contributes to something that's fed inside, that's starved for peace and expressions of peace. So, peacecast.tv. Thank you.
And that's the 21st of September? Is that what you said?
Every year, September 21st.
Oh. And it's celebrated locally, perhaps here in Cambridge as well? So on a lower key, perhaps?
Possibly. I don't know of anything in Cambridge.
Peace Commission might know about that.
I'm sure they would know about the Day of Peace. I don't know that. And I don't know how active the Peace Commission is. Maybe they meet once a year. Who knows?
Yeah, I've had a long history, not all of it positive, with the Peace Commission. For those of you who are new, basically, to Cambridge politics, Peace Commission is an agency within the city of Cambridge, financed by the city of Cambridge, with an office with 2 telephones and 3 rooms. in the center of Cambridge. My theory is, with an infrastructure like that, you could end a war. You've got someone to pay the telephone bill.
Mm-hmm.
You get 24 hours a day people to man the telephones, and you start working to organize. And why that wasn't done in the city of Cambridge, a city that is so dedicated to the question of peace and the question of justice, I will never know. But we're speaking about time from 2006 onward, when this was a real issue that could have been brought forward.
Well, I didn't, before today, I didn't know that we had a peace commission.
It's not really known unfortunately, by many people. It exists today. It's just off Mass Avenue.
I was thinking of you the other day. I was watching a movie called Captain Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That's
not the reason.
I can see why that came up, the association.
Well, no, there's more to it. There's this family that's been living off the earth and living very natural lives and totally rejecting corporate capitalism and all that. And rather than have a birthday each year, they have a Noam Chomsky Day.
Yeah.
They celebrate Noam Chomsky's birthday. So that's when I thought of you.
It's a reason for it.
Yes.
The America's public intellectual, a great thinker, and someone whose ideas will probably resonate into the future. But you brought up something really interesting, Paul, that I was interested in speaking about. MIT is pushing this idea, and has been pushing this idea as an engineer, and I want to bring it forward to you, in having the potential for settling in various locations in the planetary structure around Earth, of having human colonies prepare for an extension into the universe.
Uh-huh.
And the idea being, behind all of this, the idea being that artificial intelligence is the evolutionary change. Artificial intelligence is the evolutionary change that can be expected to continue human development.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So when we talk about expanding into the universe, are we talking about colonizing Mars, that kind of thing? No.
As a first step, the moon, Mars, some artificial planet revolving around the Earth or so. Completely self-sufficient.
So once we've totally crapped up this one, we're going to go to another one.
Exactly right. Paul, this is Paul Stephen Stone. This is precisely the idea. Why would anyone come up with an idea of seeing that the extension of human development is only possible through artificial intelligence? When the crisis in artificial intelligence is they don't have empathy. They don't. Mm-hmm. Can't create art. That's the reality. They don't have empathy. They can't write books. They can't create dialogue.
Sounds like Hillary.
It sounds like Hillary.
Totally without empathy, I believe.
We're living in a strange world. We're truly living in a strange world. And just from the economic point of view, the only thing necessary to prevent the 2.5 rise is to change to solar energy, to change our energy policy. And the change in the energy policy would develop a gigantic financial push forward.
Right. The big oil companies who've been basically holding this thing back for quite some time certainly stand to lose a lot, the big energy companies, because they're betting on the old fossil fuel paradigm. And so all the conversation now mostly focuses on what we're going to lose as opposed to what we're going to gain.
Right.
You know, it's sort of like the old thing with the bottle bill. there's going to be tremendous dislocation, and what are you going to gain? The truth is, we gained a clean city. You look out there, you don't see any bottles in the streets, and those would have been there a few years ago before the bottle bill. There's no innovation is frightening to a lot of people.
It is.
It really is. And the internet and this personal computer revolution together have totally changed how everything is done and how everything is seen. And that's why we can survive without those corporate lackey newspapers and corporate lackey TV networks. Maybe we can't survive without them for our entertainment, but for news, give me a break. They don't know how to do news. All these years, and they still don't know how to do news. There's a network that had Harry Reasoner and Walter Cronkite, and they don't know how to do news.
Wow.
They become just another ass-kissing corporate flunky. It's pathetic. It's really sad. It was Walter Cronkite that finally got everybody to start paying attention to Watergate. He did a whole show. Oh, God, yes.
No kidding.
Once Walter Cronkite is against you, as he was with Nixon, he did a whole show showing what Watergate was all about. And that was really where Nixon lost it. Nixon was no longer able to control the discussion, which in most cases, that's what we're dealing with. It's never the act of whatever infamous act you've committed. It's the discussion around that. It's like the Democrats, when the emails were leaked, tried to immediately put the Russians in the frame.
Wow, isn't that crazy? That I find that to be so...
It was brilliant.
It was brilliant to the extent that they found a scapegoat, but I find it difficult to accept how easily this scapegoat was accepted by massive numbers of Americans.
See if you can find, I wrote a piece called, what did I call it? The DNC uses the Russians as a ploy to refocus attention on the DNC emails, or something like that. PR ploy of the century, I called it. What I did was, the day after those emails were leaked, and there was significant discussion about the content, you had Donna Bazile and Robbie Mook, I think his name is, who was Clinton's campaign manager. They were both out on the news talk circuit playing up the Russians. And Donna Bazile was offended. They did that to us? Oh, God.
The Russians are coming, the Russians are coming.
Okay, this is it. This is the one.
The Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. As you'll see in the linked article below, I wrote that the Democratic Party's PR machine was about to shift into high gear and refocus everyone's attention from the content of the DNC's emails to the supposed Russian involvement in the hack itself. Well, no surprise. It worked like gangbusters. Today, I read columns in both the Boston Globe, that's a local newspaper, Boston, and the New York Times, where ignorant people, the reader of this article included, spouted information as if they had the wisdom to shift wheat from chaff. They also both sprouted corporate media bullshit about how the election wasn't stolen, that maybe there was some behind-the-scenes annoyances or criticism perpetrated by the DNC, but not the wholesale theft of the American democracy that we are actually witnessing primary after primary. Thanks so much.
Now, just scroll down if you could, just because I was trying to be Paul Revere here, and I'll show you what I did. If you go back to that page and then scroll down.
Let me see.
I thought this was, I was trying to be heroic.
The Russians are coming, the Russians are coming.
No,
Dems use Russians as a shield. Brand suicide, the destruction of the Democratic.
Well, Dems use Russians as a shield is the piece.
Shall we go to that one?
Yeah, go back to that one. That's where we just were. This is just my ego.
Is this the one?
I'll tell you in a sec. Oh, that's interesting. Now, scroll down. It appeared also in the Huffington Post. Scroll down. All right, here it is. I sent this out on my Facebook page immediately after I saw Donna Bazile's interview. Attention, wake up, wake up. Hillary's pawns are instituting their new email response strategy. Instead of apologizing or admitting wrong, they have chosen to offer a story soaked in political intrigue and espionage. As you can see from the New York Times, and this is an article they just ran that morning, in hacking, Russia accused of playing in U.S. politics, and from the lips of Democratic henchwoman Donna Bazile and Hillary campaign manager Robbie Mook, they are attempting to shift the discussion of the email story off the contemptible content of the emails to the hackers themselves. Don't be distracted. They're using the Russians as a shield.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was fascinating to watch. And I was very impressed. That was brilliant strategy. So typical. You know, we can kill this story if we just bring in something that was even more explosive. So, and the FBI was investigating it, and they had all this bullshit, all these stories that they could put out about how the government was trying to track the hacks, and that the government had told the DNC that they were hackable, and all this. Who cares? The DNC was crapping all over Bernie's campaign. That's what you need to know.
And that's really the case. Amazed, I think, Paul, were many who, at the acceptance for the nomination, on the evening, 2 evenings before then, when the statistics that Bernie Sanders got 46% of the vote. 46%, that's only 4% difference, and it's close to the margin of error as to who actually won the primaries.
And he was dragging an anchor the entire way.
Exactly.
Which was a cheating DNC and local state Democratic parties that had already agreed to take that money from Hillary, thinking they were going to get all this extra money that they got nothing. They deserved nothing, they got nothing. And you know, I would like to see this state, the Democrats in this state, challenge Galvin, who basically gave a free pass to Hillary's campaign. People complained about Bill Clinton electioneering at the polls, and he stopped everybody, and he had a friggin' bullhand in his hand, and they said he wasn't electioneering. Seti Warren, the mayor, was calling out to people in the election station, saying, "Who's here for Hillary?"
My God.
Really disgusting.
It's scandalous. It's truly scandalous, and I think something came out in the news which leads me to this this idea. NPR came out with a news flash that there's a scientific study that tells us that flossing our teeth, flossing makes no difference whatsoever. Now, what difference would it? First of all, why would the NPR come up with the idea of giving information in the interests of the public by telling them that what we've trained ourselves for generations to try to remember to do isn't any good for us? What they're basically showing us, it makes no difference in our personal hygiene politics, and it certainly won't make any difference to us how we want to vote, or where we give our vote, or what we want to happen in the electoral politics, because it doesn't make any difference in our own hygiene. This is NPR, and this is basically what I've seen National Public Radio do time and time again in reference to the Bernie Sanders campaign, by ignoring
They've been
Sanders.
Amazingly complicit in the big silence.
It's true.
The big silence. NPR and public radio in general, they've been complicit. They've never had a story about the election theft, the fraud. And you know, folks, the fraud was so widespread that you would not believe that the New York Times and others didn't carry it or focus on, or CNN. Well, most people don't know it happened, so they can't believe that they were not informed. But you weren't informed. You knew nothing about it. It's just amazing to me. And it's not going to change unless we put these guys out of business.
It's true.
Because they're doing it for the money. They're doing it to protect their own point of view. They don't want Bernie in. If nothing else, Citizens United is an incredible windfall
Oh, wow.
for broadcast.
And I don't think Hillary Clinton is going to let that change. I don't think she's going to let that be voted on by Congress. It's too much in your interest, basically, to do that, to revoke the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, which allowed unlimited amount of party donations into political campaigns.
Corporate donations,
Corporate.
yes, it basically just, it allowed the whole ethical fabric to shred. That's what I was saying about in Cambridge. We let them take money from developers, and then we don't find it amiss that they actually vote on the developers' projects. If you don't see an obvious conflict, then we live in two different worlds. And so that's become the norm. Hillary taking all this money from all these controlled vested interests supposedly is not going to impact the way she approaches her job. That's bullshit. Somebody gives you money, you're indebted to them. It's
Otherwise, next time you come around for money, you're not going to get any if you don't pay back your debts.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
everybody that has a mortgage knows you have to pay your mortgage, right? Everybody knows if you have a debt and you want your credit rating not to sink, you have to pay back the debt. So why wouldn't it be the case with Hillary Clinton, having to pay back the debts to people that finance her campaign?
Well, you should not be obligated to any one interest group. That's the whole thing. And that's being obligated to the developers to develop this, what I call a Jersey barrier that's going to be a massive...
That's what it looks like right there, Paul. It's in the picture on the left-hand side, that building right there. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, that's Quest, but that's just with the space above it.
Right.
Yeah, that's where it's going to be. But it will look like a Jersey barrier. The architect...
What do you mean by Jersey barrier? I'm sorry.
Heavy, dense, the bottom being like a thick, massive piece. The whole thing has massiveness about
Oh, is
it.
that true? It's not glass and reflective and light materials?
No. What they've done, in order to break it down a little, they have it in two sections. So they have a base, and then they have a part on top of that. And that's shifted a little, so it's not totally aligned with the base. And that does break up a little bit of the massiveness, but not a lot. Dennis... Geez, his name escaped me. What's Dennis's name? No, on the city council.
Right, yeah.
This is so funny.
I don't know.
Dennis, who's an architect, actually designed a variation on their thing, which would have had the same amount of square footage, but broke down that whole massive quality, because the massiveness will end up creating a real heaviness around this part of the central square. Overlooking the only park in Central Square, the only remnant of a park. Typical local politics at work, I have to say. But anyway,
it's a local scandal.
It is, to me, it's a scandal. And any of the guys that were taking money would tell you that it's not a scandal. The current mayor is one of the people that enjoyed the largesse. And she got money from the developer a few weeks before her housing committee met, just to keep the whole thing spinning, the plate spinning on the stick. It's a terrible system, terrible system. The only responsibility that city council really has, other than to make pronouncements about things and really kind of nudge different departments in the city, is zoning. That's the only thing that they really have that should be considered precious, because that can change the character and the makeup of a city in no time.
Precious to the city of Cambridge, to those that live here.
Yeah. And when you start to allow conflict of interest, you allow them to take money. I mean, I would have been perfectly cool if they'd recused themselves. They wouldn't do that because they've already committed to passing this damn thing. Anyway, so I think the system really is it's terrible. Terrible.
And it's the local realities of federal...
Dennis Carlone.
Dennis Carlone, wow,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It's the local reflection of the national tendency of corruption, massive corruption, manipulation, bullying, fear politics, but a fear politics not only of the Russians who have stolen and broken into the computer system of the ENC as a lie, right?
Well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know where WikiLeaks got its emails. And it could be the Russians, could be anybody. Anybody that has a sophisticated enough system to break, could be the Chinese.
Right, but that this ploy is launched and that news media everywhere pick up on
Jump right into it.
like it's logical. Who was doing the research? No one's doing any research. Nobody's being critical
Right.
about it. They're just picking up on what Clinton then said.
You know what the corporate posture is right now? You know, it was ignore Bernie. You could say that was the main posture. Ignore Bernie, elevate Trump. That was their big thing then.
That
Right?
was what it was.
Right, and
I
now-
mean, Trump was, you know, this,
Now they're trashing Trump. That's what they're doing now. They're elevating Hillary and trashing Trump. I'm not pro-Trump at all, but you see how they present anything he says, and you know they're out for him. And so you can't, I don't want to speak anything in favor of Trump, but don't believe anything you read unless it comes from somebody, a source you trust. Every headline is just, because most people just read headlines. So Trump does this or Trump does that. Trump insults Gold Star parents, all that shit. It's just sad state of affairs. Sorry.
wow.
Yeah, that was a mouthful there.
This is What We Should Know, coming to you from Cambridge Community Television. Paul Stephen Stone,
Thank you for having me.
terrific blogger. You can read Paul Stephen Stone's blog at Stone's Throw.
Paul Stone's Throw, no apostrophe, .com. PaulStonesThrow.com. Thank you.
Terrific work. Thanks for being here, Paul.
I've had such a bump in readership the last 3 days. I had
Well earned.
350 2 days in a row, and I've had 300 so far today. I've never had anything like that.
Terrific.
People like reading about Bernie and Hillary. Sorry, Bernie. Sorry, Hillary.
Congratulations. And that's our show for today, Paul. Thanks for being a guest again.
And thanks for having me. Hi, folks. Bye, folks.
Same time, same date.